My parents tried to force me back into the perfect daughter mold, so I finally took a hammer to it. The words hit me like a physical blow, sharp and unexpected, even though, somewhere deep down, I think I'd been waiting for them my whole life. Honestly, Claire, my mother said, her voice tight with that familiar blend of disappointment and strained politeness she reserved just for me, we just don't understand why you have to be so contrary. Martin makes a perfectly reasonable suggestion, and you immediately shoot it down. It's like you enjoy making things difficult. We were standing in the gleaming, newly renovated kitchen of my parents' house, the house I grew up in, the house that felt less like home with every passing year. Sunlight streamed through the expensive plantation shutters, catching the dust motes dancing in the air, illuminating the tension crackling between the three of us. My dad stood slightly behind my mom, arms crossed, nodding almost imperceptibly, his face a mask of weary agreement. Martin, my older brother, the golden child, leaned against the marble island, a smug little smirk playing on his lips. He just casually suggested, again, that I should quit my little art thing. I run a moderately successful online print shop and do freelance graphic design, and come work for him as an administrative assistant at his burgeoning real estate agency. You know, he'd said, stirring his coffee, get some real-world experience. Stability. Plus, I could really use the help, and frankly, keeping track of your invoices must be exhausting. The exhausting was delivered with a condescending little chuckle, as if my entire livelihood was a slightly pathetic hobby he was offering to rescue me from. It wasn't the first time he'd made the offer, or variations of it. It was part of a pattern, a long-standing family narrative where Martin was the responsible one, the success story, and I was Claire. The artistic one. The sensitive one. The one who didn't quite fit the blueprint they'd laid out. Usually, I'd swallow the frustration, offer a tight smile, and deflect. Thanks, Martin, but I'm happy doing what I'm doing, I'd murmur, or change the subject. Years of practice had taught me that direct confrontation only led to lectures about gratitude, thinly veiled insults about my life choices, and inevitable tears, usually mine. But today felt different. Maybe it was the cumulative weight of 1,000 similar conversations. Maybe it was the way Martin's smirk seemed particularly self-satisfied. Or maybe it was just the sheer exhaustion of constantly contorting myself to fit their expectations, only to be perpetually found wanting. Making things difficult? I echoed, my voice lower than I intended, rough around the edges. Is that what you call having my own life, my own career that I actually enjoy and am good at? My mother sighed dramatically, turning to fuss with a bowl of perfect, plastic-looking fruit on the counter. Oh, Claire, don't be dramatic, nobody's saying you aren't creative. But Martin is offering you a real opportunity. Security. Benefits. Something solid. Something soul-crushing, I muttered, mostly to myself, but Martin heard it. Hey, he snapped, pushing off the island. Running my own business isn't soul-crushing, okay? It's hard work. It takes discipline. Something maybe you could learn. And sitting in a beige cubicle filing your paperwork sounds like the pinnacle of personal fulfillment? I shot back, the dam inside me finally starting to crack. Why is my happiness, my definition of success, always secondary to what you think is best for me? Or what makes you look good? My dad finally spoke, his voice rummy with years of quiet authority. That's enough, Claire. Your brother is trying to help you out. Your mother and I worry about you. This art. It's precarious. What happens if it dries up? What about retirement? A mortgage? Martin has built something real. Something real. Those words again. As if my income, my client list, the positive reviews, the sheer joy I felt bringing an idea to life, were all imaginary. As if the only real things Cunningham's did involve spreadsheets and property management and playing golf with the right people. The unspoken part, the part that hung heavy in the air, was always about legacy. The Cunningham name. My grandfather had started a small construction business, my dad expanded it, and Martin, after dutifully getting his business degree, had pivoted into real estate, leveraging family connections and capital. I, on the other hand, had gone to art school. A betrayal, in their eyes, though they'd never used that word. They'd paid the tuition, albeit with constant sighs and pointed remarks about useful degrees, but the expectation had always been that I'd eventually come to my senses. That I'd marry someone suitable, read, wealthy and conventional, maybe dabble in some tasteful decorating, and produce grandchildren who would carry on the real Cunningham legacy. My chosen path, my freelance career, my tiny rented apartment filled with art supplies instead of antique furniture, was a constant, low-grade disappointment to them. I am building something real, I insisted, my voice rising despite my best efforts to keep it steady. It might not look like your definition of real, Dad, but it's mine. I pay my bills. I save money. I'm happy. Why isn't that enough? Because it's not stable. Martin interjected, stepping closer. You work from home in your pajamas half the time. You don't have colleagues, a proper office structure. Oh, I'm sorry, does wearing pajamas invalidate my income? I scoffed. Does not having fluorescent lighting and stale coffee make my work less valuable? I have clients, Martin. Repeat clients. People who value what I do. Value your little doodles? He sneered. That did it, the condescension, the dismissiveness, the absolute refusal to see me as anything other than a flighty child playing pretend. Years of suppressed anger, of feeling minimized and misunderstood, surged up. My little doodles paid for the down payment on my car, I said, my voice dangerously quiet now. My little doodles allowed me to fly myself to Italy last year, something I seem to recall you complaining you couldn't afford because you were leveraged with your latest property flip. My little doodles are mine. I built this myself, with no help from anyone in this room, despite the constant subtle, and not so subtle, messages that I was wasting my time and would inevitably fail. My mother gasped. Claire. How can you say that? We've always supported you. Supported me? I laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. You mean tolerated me? You paid for art school, yes, thank you. But every decision I've made since has been met with skepticism, pity, or outright attempts to steer me back onto the correct path. Martin gets funding, introductions, endless praise for every minor success. I announce a major commission, and Dad asks if they paid me up front in case they change their mind. Do you have any idea how exhausting that is? How demoralizing. My dad's face flushed crimson. We were being practical. We worry. You weren't being practical, Dad, you were projecting your own limited view of success onto me. You were telling me, over and over, that you didn't believe in me. That my choices were foolish. Martin stepped forward, pointing a finger. You're being ungrateful. We give you a nice life, a safety net dash. A safety net? I cut him off, my voice now trembling with a mixture of rage and hurt. Is that what this is? A safety net woven with guilt and obligation and the constant, crushing weight of your disapproval? Let me tell you about your safety net, Martin. Do you remember when Grandma Helen was sick? Really sick, the last few months? My mother flinched. Dad looked away pain. This was forbidden territory. Who took time off work, unpaid, to sit with her almost every day? I continued, my gaze fixed on Martin. Who managed her medications, coordinated with the hospice nurses, held her hand while she cried because she was scared. It wasn't you, Martin. You were too busy closing a deal. It wasn't Dad, who found it too upsetting. It was me. Flighty, unstable, impractical Claire. I put my little doodle business on hold for 3 months. Did anyone offer to compensate me for my lost income? Did anyone even really thank me beyond a cursory "that's nice of you, dear"? Silence. Thick, suffocating silence. Martin looked uncomfortable, shifting his weight. My mother twisted the dish towel in her hands. And what about when Dad's business almost went under 5 years ago? I pressed on, the words tumbling out now, unstoppable. Who quietly cashed in the bonds Grandma Helen left me, not the family trust, me, to give him an injection of cash to tide him over, without telling anyone where it came from because Dad was too proud. Money I had earmarked for a studio space? Did you know about that, Martin? Did you, Mom? More silence. My dad wouldn't meet my eyes. My mom looked horrified, her gaze darting between me and my father. I did that, I said softly, the anger momentarily replaced by a profound sadness. I did it because he's my dad, and I love him, and I didn't want to see him lose everything. I did it because that's what I thought family did. You support each other. But it seems, in this family, the support only flows one way. From me, outwards. I'm the emotional caretaker, the secret keeper, the emergency fund, the reliable backup. And in return? I get condescension, judgment, and constant pressure to abandon everything I care about to fit into your narrow little definition of respectability. Martin finally found his voice, though it lacked its usual confidence. That's not fair, Claire. We didn't know about the money. Exactly. I almost shouted. You didn't know. Because my sacrifices, my contributions, they're invisible to you. They don't count unless they come with a P&L statement. But your demands? Your expectations? Those are front and center. Like this ridiculous idea that I should give up my career to be your glorified secretary. It's a good job. My mother insisted weakly. It's not my job, I cried, tears finally stinging my eyes. It's Martin's job. It's his life. Why can't I have mine? Why does my existence have to be a reflection of yours, or a support system for his? I looked from my mother's distressed face to my father's stubborn silence, to Martin's defensive posture. And in that moment, something inside me shifted. It wasn't a snap, exactly, more like a slow, deep tectonic plate movement that had finally reached its destination. The years of trying, of hoping they'd see me, really see me, just dissolved. The desperate need for their approval, the thing that had unconsciously guided so many of my decisions, vanished. It was replaced by a chilling clarity. They would never get it. They would never see me the way I needed them to. They were trapped in their own narrative, and they were determined to keep me trapped in it with them. You know what? I said, my voice suddenly calm, eerily calm. I took a deep breath, wiping angrily at a tear that escaped. You're right, Mom. I am contrary. I'm contrary to this script you've written for me. I'm contrary to the idea that my worth is measured by how well I conform to your expectations or serve Martin's ambitions. I looked directly at Martin. Thank you for the offer, Martin. But no. Absolutely not. Not now, not ever. My little art thing, as you call it, is my life's work. And I'm damn proud of it. And frankly, I wouldn't work for you if you paid me twice what you think I'm worth, because I wouldn't be able to stomach the condescension for 8 hours a day. His jaw tightened. Fine. Don't come crying to me when it all falls apart. Don't worry, I said, the calmness holding steady. I won't. That's kind of the point I've been making. The emergency contact, the silent investor, the emotional support animal, that Claire is officially off duty. I turned to my parents. And Mom, Dad. I love you. I think I always will, somewhere deep down. But I can't keep doing this. I can't keep coming here, hoping for acceptance and getting criticism. I can't keep shrinking myself down to make you comfortable. I can't keep pretending that your version of support isn't slowly crushing me. My mother started to cry softly. Claire, don't say that. We love you. I know you think you do, I replied, the sadness creeping back in. But your love feels conditional. It feels like it hinges on me being someone I'm not. And I can't do it anymore. I need space. I need to breathe air that isn't thick with unspoken expectations. I walked towards the door, my legs feeling shaky but determined. My handbag was on the console table in the hall. I picked it up, my fingers fumbling slightly with the clasp. So, where are you going? My dad asked, his voice strained. It wasn't a question of destination, but of intent. I'm going home, I said, turning to face them one last time, framed in the doorway. To my actual home. The one I built. The one where my little doodles pay the rent. Martin scoffed, turning away. My mother reached out a hand, her face pleading. Claire, wait. Let's talk about this. Don't just walk out. We just did talk about it, Mom, I said gently, but firmly. For years, we've been talking around it. Today, we finally talked about it. And nothing changed. You still think I'm making a mistake, that I'm difficult, that I need rescuing. And I finally accept that you're never going to see it differently. I opened the front door. The sunlight outside felt different, cleaner somehow. I need a break, I said, my voice barely a whisper now, but clear in the suddenly quiet hallway. A real break. From this. From the judgment, the expectations, the constant feeling of never being quite good enough. I'll be in touch when I'm ready. Or maybe I won't. I don't know yet. And then I walked out. I closed the door softly behind me, the click echoing in the sudden emptiness. I didn't run, I didn't slam it. I just walked down the perfectly manicured flagstone path, past the rose bushes my mother fussed over, towards my slightly dented, definitely not luxury car parked on the curb. Getting into the driver's seat felt like entering a sanctuary. I rested my forehead on the steering wheel for a long moment, the adrenaline finally starting to ebb, leaving behind a shaky sea old. Tears streamed down my face, hot and silent. It wasn't just anger anymore, or sadness. It was grief. Grief for the family I wished I had, grief for the relationship I'd always craved and now knew I'd likely never achieve, at least not on terms that didn't cost me my own soul. Driving away from that house, from the town I grew up in, felt surreal. Every street corner held a memory, every familiar landmark seemed to whisper accusations of betrayal, of selfishness. How could you walk away? After everything they've done for you? The ingrained guilt, decades in the making, was a powerful force. Part of me wanted to turn the car around, go back, apologize, smooth things over, slip back into the uncomfortable but familiar role of the accommodating daughter. But the other part, the part that had finally spoken up, felt a strange, burgeoning sense of peace. It was terrifying, this uncharted territory, but it was also quiet. The constant background noise of trying to please them, of anticipating their reactions, of bracing for the next subtle criticism, had suddenly stopped. The silence was vast, overwhelming, but also liberating. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. Martin. I ignored it. Then Mom. Ignored it. Then Dad. Ignored it. The buzzing continued relentlessly for the first 20 minutes of my drive. Texts started pinging. I pulled over briefly, my hands still shaking, and put my phone on silent, tossing it onto the passenger seat. I wouldn't look at it. Not yet. Maybe not for days. The backstory, I guess, is standard issue family dysfunction, polished to a high shine on the outside. My parents aren't monsters. They provided a comfortable, upper middle class upbringing. We had nice vacations, mostly to places Dad wanted to go, lived in a big house, decorated exactly to Mom's taste, and never wanted for material things. Dad worked hard, built his business, provided. Mom managed the house, volunteered on the right committees, and ensured we always presented a perfect image to the world. Image was everything. The Cunninghams were successful, respectable, solid. Martin, being 5 years older and male, slotted perfectly into this narrative. Played the right sports, got the right grades, good, not great, but good enough, went to the right university, Dad's alma mater, and joined the family trajectory without complaint. He was pragmatic, ambitious in a conventional way, and seemed genuinely baffled by anyone who wasn't motivated by money or status. He wasn't overtly cruel, but he possessed a casual arrogance, a certainty that his way was the only way, undoubtedly absorbed from years of being mirrored and validated by our parents. He soaked up their approval like a sponge, leaving little for anyone else. I was different. Quiet, bookish, happiest with a sketchbook and pencils. I did well in school, but my interests lay in art, literature, things deemed impractical. My sensitivity, my tendency towards introspection, was often interpreted as moodiness or weakness. Where Martin was praised for being driven, I was gently chided for being too emotional. Where his business ventures were investments, my artistic pursuits were hobbies. The dynamic was subtle for years. Little digs disguised as jokes. Concerns framed as loving advice. Comparisons always tilted in Martin's favor. Martin just landed the Miller account, isn't that wonderful? Oh, you sold a painting? That's nice, dear. Was it to anyone we know? Or, Martin's looking at buying another rental property. Such a smart young man. Are you managing to save anything, Claire, with your projects? The Grandma Helen situation was a turning point, though I didn't fully recognize it at the time. She was my dad's mom, a widow, and the one family member who truly saw me. She loved my drawings, encouraged my creativity, and left me those bonds specifically, telling me, don't let them talk you out of your dreams, Clary girl. When she got sick, it felt natural for me to step up. My work was flexible, unlike Martin's rigid schedule or Dad's business demands. But the lack of real acknowledgement, the way my sacrifice was taken for granted while Martin was still lauded for simply existing, planted a seed of resentment. Then the incident with Dad's business finances. Seeing him so stressed, so afraid. I didn't hesitate. It felt like the right thing to do. But keeping it secret, absorbing that financial hit while Martin was bragging about his latest commission check, solidified the pattern. I was the hidden support beam, holding things up silently while the facade remained pristine. My contributions were essential but invisible, my needs secondary. Over the past couple of years, my art business had actually started doing well. I'd found a niche, built a following online, got some good freelance contracts. I wasn't getting rich, but I was independent. I was happy. And that, paradoxically, seemed to make them more anxious, not less. My success didn't fit the narrative of the struggling artist who would eventually need rescuing by her sensible family. It threatened the established order. Martin's offers to help became more frequent, more insistent. Mom's worries about my stability intensified. Dad's silences grew heavier. The confrontation in the kitchen wasn't planned. It was a spontaneous combustion fueled by years of accumulated pressure. Saying those things, revealing the secret about the money, it felt like ripping off a bandage that had been stuck fast for far too long. Painful, yes, but necessary. The first few days after walking out were a blur of adrenaline, anxiety, and strange calm. My phone remained mostly silent in my bag. I checked it occasionally, morbid curiosity winning out, Dozens of missed calls from all three of them. Texts ranging from furious, "How dare you speak to us like that?" to pleading, "Claire, please come home, we can talk this out," to manipulative, "Your mother is sick with worry, you're being incredibly selfish." Martin's were particularly venomous, accusing me of jealousy, ingratitude, and trying to gild the lily of my pathetic little career by tearing down his success. I didn't reply to any of them. I threw myself into my work with a ferocity I hadn't felt before. It was my anchor, my proof that I wasn't delusional, that I could build something real on my own terms. Every completed commission, every positive client email, every sale notification felt like a small victory, a validation. I painted, I designed, I packed orders until my fingers were sore, losing myself in the process. Friends were my lifeline. I confided in my closest friend, Maya, who had witnessed years of my family's dynamics firsthand. She wasn't surprised by the blow-up, only that it hadn't happened sooner. "Good for you, Claire," she'd said, pouring me a large glass of wine. "Seriously. They've been treating you like a doormat with artistic talent for years. It was time." Her unwavering support was like a balm. Other friends, the ones who only knew the niece Cunningham family persona, were harder to talk to. I kept it vague, just saying I needed some space from family stuff. Their concerned glances sometimes felt like judgment, echoing the guilt my family tried to instill. "Are you sure you're doing the right thing? They're your family." About a week after the confrontation, a floral arrangement the size of a small shrub arrived at my apartment. Extravagantly expensive lilies and roses, the kind my mother loved. The card read, "We miss you. Please call us. Love, Mom and Dad." No apology. No acknowledgement of my feelings or the issues I'd raised. Just an expectation that a grand gesture would smooth everything over, bring me back into the fold. It felt like another attempt to buy compliance, to paper over the cracks without actually fixing anything. I left the flowers outside my door. I couldn't stand having them in my space. A few days later, Martin showed up unannounced. I saw him through the peephole, looking impatient and annoyed on my doorstep. My heart hammered against my ribs. I didn't answer. He knocked louder, then called my name. I stood frozen in my hallway, barely breathing, until he finally gave up and left. Later, a text, really mature, "Claire. Ignoring me won't solve anything. Dad wants to talk about the money you mentioned. Call him." The mention of the money gave me pause. Was this an opening? A chance for real dialogue? Or just another manipulation tactic? I thought about Dad's silence during the argument, his inability to meet my eyes when I brought it up. Calling him felt like stepping back into the trap. I remembered all the times I'd tried to have honest conversations, only to be shut down, gaslit, or lectured. Why would this time be different? I decided not to call. If he wanted to talk about it, he could write me a letter. He could acknowledge what happened, why I did it, and maybe, just maybe, apologize for the years of taking me for granted. Until then, talking felt pointless. The hardest part was the grief. It came in waves, often at unexpected moments. Seeing a family laughing together in a cafe. Hearing a song that reminded me of childhood road trips. Even just the empty space where their calls and texts used to be. I missed the idea of them, the family I sometimes glimpsed in fleeting moments of connection, the family I desperately wished they could be. I missed the easy familiarity, the shared history, even the annoying habits. Walking away from your family, even a toxic one, isn't like flipping a switch. It's more like amputating a limb. You know it's necessary for survival, but the phantom pains are real. There were moments of doubt, of course. Late at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering if I'd overreacted. Was I just being selfish? Ungrateful? Maybe Martin was right, maybe my art was precarious, maybe I should have taken the sensible route. Was this independence worth the loneliness, the ache of separation? But then I'd remember the feeling in that kitchen. The crushing weight of their expectations. The constant, subtle erosion of my self-worth. The sheer exhaustion of performing a role I never auditioned for. And I knew, deep down, that I couldn't go back. Not to the way things were. Standing up for myself, drawing that boundary, it wasn't just about my career or money or past grievances. It was about reclaiming my right to exist as myself, separate from their narrative, their needs, their control. Months have passed now. It's autumn, and the leaves are turning outside my window. My apartment feels more like home than ever. My business is thriving. I even hired a part-time assistant, remotely, of course, no beige cubicles involved, to help with shipping and admin. I'm saving money, planning another trip, maybe Southeast Asia this time. I'm painting more freely, exploring new styles, feeling a creative energy I haven't accessed in years. The lack of constant, low-grade anxiety about my family's judgment has freed up so much mental space. The communication from my family has dwindled. After the initial barrage, the failed attempts at contact, a sort of strained silence has fallen. Mom sends occasional, brief texts, "Hope you're well," or pictures of the dog, devoid of any real substance or attempt at reconciliation. Dad hasn't reached out directly since Martin's text urging me to call him about the money. Martin, I assume, has written me off as a lost cause, probably telling anyone who asks that I had some kind of breakdown. I heard through the grapevine, a cousin I still talk to occasionally, that Martin did eventually get confronted by my mom about the money I'd given Dad, leading to some awkwardness, but apparently Dad brushed it off, saying it was a loan he intended to repay when the time was right. No apology to me, no acknowledgement of the secrecy or the sacrifice. Just deflection. Business as usual. It hurts, that lack of accountability. It confirms that walking away was the right decision, but it doesn't make the estrangement easy. There's a hollowness sometimes, a missing piece. I see photos on social media, distant relatives posting pictures from family gatherings I wasn't invited to, featuring my parents and Martin smiling, presenting that perfect Cunningham facade. It stings. It feels like being erased. But then I look around my life. My cozy apartment filled with my art. My fulfilling work. My supportive friends who accept me exactly as I am. The freedom to make my own choices without justifying them to anyone. And I know I made the right choice for me. It wasn't about punishing them, it was about protecting myself. It was about finally choosing my own well-being over the suffocating demands of their love and expectations. I broke the mold they tried to force me into, and yeah, it made a mess. There are shards everywhere, sharp edges I'm still navigating. Rebuilding my life without the familiar, albeit constricting, scaffolding of my family is daunting. Some days are harder than others. Some days, the phantom limb aches fiercely. But the space I've created for myself feels clean. It feels honest. It feels like mine. I'm breathing my own air, charting my own course. I don't know if my relationship with my parents or brother will ever recover. Maybe someday, if they can truly acknowledge the hurt and change the dynamic. But I'm not holding my breath. I can't build my future on the hope that they will change. I have to build it on my own strength, my own choices, my own definition of a real life. I learned that family isn't just about blood, it's about respect, support, and acceptance. And sometimes, the bravest act of love is self-love, choosing to save yourself, even if it means walking away from the people who were supposed to be your safe harbor. I learned that my worth isn't tied to their approval, and my little doodles are actually pretty damn important. They're the language of my soul, and silencing that language was a price I was no longer willing to pay. I still feel a mix of sadness, anger, relief, and uncertainty. But underneath it all, there's a growing sense of peace, a quiet confidence I never had when I was trying so hard to be the daughter they wanted. I smashed the mold, yes, but I didn't break myself. In fact, I think I might have finally put myself back together. So, Reddit, after laying all this out, was I wrong to finally draw such a hard line? Was walking away, creating this distance, too extreme? What would you have done in my shoes?